Oh, those summer nights. Tom, tell me more about your day. How are you keeping, pal?
I'm doing all right. It's just, I get excited about these bonus episodes because it's a little gift that we give away to people. I realize later in life, Ger, I like giving stuff away. I do. I like it. It's cathartic to know that people are enjoying our stuff we're giving away.
Do you know what I'm going to tell you, Tom? I didn't sing that Grease song for no reason. It is beautiful long summer nights now with this. The kids were going back to school. We got the good weather. So I can't think of anything better to do than to kick back with a nice cold frosty beverage of your choice and listen to the Tom and Jerry show well into those summer nights.
Exactly. And so far, I tell you what, people have been absolutely class. People have been class in their comments. I must actually send you on because I see a bunch of them on YouTube and places like that. People have been. We've been corrected on a few things, which is great.
I don't doubt that.
But thank you all very much for the main.
Surprised me in the slightest.
Yeah, the interaction on the main episodes, and I mean, you're such a badass right now, Ger. I'm looking at you, and there's a fly flying, a moth or something flying into your hair, which is how much you're into podcasting.
It's a fucking flying ant, so it is. Yeah, and may the road rise to meet him. There he goes. I'm like your man in Raiders of the Lost Ark with the fly flying into his mouth, and all of a sudden
that's exactly what I saw.
Fucking cunt of a thing.
But while Jerry kills
anyway,
insect,
while I'm battling with the wildlife of the area, and nearly cutting my thumbs off with a secateurs here, because that's just the way my fucking week's heading. How about a bonus episode for these fine folks, Tom?
Damn right. In between all the other ones we're doing that come out on a monthly basis, or a weekly basis, I should say, Jesus, on a Mondayly basis, if that's the thing to say, we have our bonus episodes. If you're brand new to it, go back, have a gander. There's a rake more of them. And just like that, myself and Jerry, for long enough, we're talking about our worst gigs ever. And we thought it's only right and proper. We probably bled the ears off of people for long enough. And we turned around and said, you know what? Jerry agreed to allow people on the podcast. He said, let's find other people to pour their hearts out with their worst gig ever. And, we've a bloody good one this week. An old mate of mine, new friend of yours.
Yes, indeed.
Mike, he's done it. In fairness to him, he's done it all. He's done it, and he plays it down. He's as hard as nails. He's, he does MMA and jiu-jitsu and lifts rakes of weights really quick. Like he's super fit on top of everything. But
on top of just he's one of these guys that he's super fit, but he's also sound too. A rare mix.
That's a rare mix, and he has the combo of the two. He's like, no, sure, I know I'm pure vicious and scary. I'm vicious when it comes to fighting in the octagon, but I'm sound out. But he's also a very good journo when it comes to it too, and has his own show and has been around the block. He's basically managed everybody from Joe.e to Entertainment.e, and now he's with Buzz.e.
And more to the point, Tom, and pertinent to this cause, he's had a couple of fucking shit days on the job.
Exactly. So sit back and enjoy the juicy stories from the mighty Mike Sheridan, everybody. Delighted to have a friend of my podcast, and I've met him many times over the years, but a man of so many talents. Jesus, everything from strangling people to fucking writing some really good stuff, but also a really good fucking journal when it comes to it. Mike Sheridan, you're very welcome to the Tom and Jerry show.
Thanks for having me, lads.
How are you keeping, Mike?
I'm not too bad. I'm wearing tracksuit bottoms in my spare room, which is basically what I've been doing for the last year and a half with everybody else.
Yeah.
So comfortable and casual.
We did not know the dream until we started living it.
You're a fella that definitely, there's upsides and downsides. You're in shredded to bits. You're in great nick. You seem to have a fantastic life. Things are going well. But it can't have been all roses in the garden coming up through the ranks, because you've obviously had to work your whole off to get to it, to get things like the Delve and everything, to the specialist people that you've had on to get it as big as it is. But like that, not every day can be an absolute 3-pointer.
Oh, fuck no. Absolutely not. I should have asked if you could course in this.
Oh, no, you can absolutely course in this. No, you can absolutely. You know what? That's part
Mike,
of the requisite.
There's a first time for everything.
I tell you what, like it's funny because there's two, like, when you're lying in bed at night and you can't sleep and your brain just goes to the most cringeworthy place it can go to, and you just get that like fucking shiver on your spine. You're like, oh. So the first time that happened, well, like in a professional sense, was about 10 years ago, right? The second time it happened was about 6-7 months ago. and they both kind of hurt like equal amounts, I would say. But the first time it happened was, I used to be on a show called Two Tube, which was a young people's television.
Yes.
that department has now been decimated, I believe. I don't know if that building's just empty and there's like wolves strolling around it and stuff out. Funny looking foxes and shit. I don't know. I haven't been out there in years now. But first couple of years I was a contributor on the show. It was great. Like I'd go off and do interviews for them and for entertainment.ie at the time where I was working as well. And then in the final year they let me host the show, which was a mistake retrospectively. So I would fill in for a guy called Paul Walsh, who was also the lead singer of Roy 7. He was in a band called Roy 7.
Yes.
And he was kind of like the nicest human being on the planet, just the greatest guy. So he would go off on tour doing things for Roy 7, like literally rock star shit, you know, going around the country playing these gigs, and I would fill in for him. And there was one that I think I'd filled in 2 or 3 times at this stage. Now, Studio 8 in RT is where we would do the show. It's a tiny studio. I think they might have done the den there back in the day. So it's really small.
Right.
When you go into the studio, there's just a monitor there, and obviously you've got your in-ear and the studio, and that's all next door, you know. But there's no auto cue. And the first time I ever presented on national television, I was literally staring down the barrel of a camera into. I don't know, 300,000 people used to watch that show because it was wrapped around The Simpsons, Home and Away, and Neighbours. So the first couple they let me pre-record, you know. So you'd have a contributor on. The first guest we had on it was Brian Cullen, the Dublin player.
Brian Callen.
Brian Callen, not Brian Callen, no. These guys are completely different. But I remember that was pre-recording. I was kind of getting comfortable, and I was like, this is cool, you know. And then you would have to be there for the day to write your scripts and be out in the department just to kind of rehearse, do all of that stuff. This day in particular, I was still with entertainment.ie, so I was kind of presenting stuff part-time. And my boss at the time was not a fan of RTE. He kind of begrudgingly let me go and host out there. And I'd always make up the time, but he was like, I could see he fucking hated that I was doing it, you know? And so this day in particular, there was an event on that he really wanted me to go to as a journalist from entertainment.ie. So, and I was like, look, I'm hosting that day. It's live. Like I have to. I was like, I really wanted to be there. They're a big client. They spend a lot of money with the site. So I went to this event that morning and was super late getting out to RTE. And the really lovely producers and stuff who were there at the time, like, are all great. And they've written the script for me and all of that stuff. But I've the worst short-term memory. Like I find things really difficult to like just read that. Like the amount of times I would have to read it for it to go in, like is ridiculous. And even then I'd probably forget as well, you know. And bear in mind there was no auto cue. So the first link we had to pre-record was the final link on the show. So there's like 5 links. And the first one you do is like, thanks for joining us. That was fucking Home and Away. See you all tomorrow. So that's a
I would love if that was actually the way you could say it. That was fucking Home and Away, lads.
I wouldn't mess that up. But so you do that first. You do that to camera first. So they tell that at the end, so you can kind of leave then at 6:30 after the second last link. And I just kept fucking it up. It was like a bit of I had to include like 2 or 3 things and reference something else and then back reference something else. So we were literally half an hour doing this. And it should have taken 1 take, 2 takes max, you know. So we come up to the like live 5:30 fucking. There's no hiding here now, slot. And I never forget. And every time I see him, I get a flashback to it. So Connor Behan, who's a DJ and was a contributor to TuTube at the time, was the guest. He was a contributor for that episode. And lads, when I tell you, I fucking stumbled through like a 2-minute link on live national television. Like it was just the sound of the director in my ear from the control room afterward, like you could kind of hear the like it felt so bad for me. It was the most embarrassing 90 odd seconds of my life, to the point when I told people about it in RT, I was like, that's the worst fucking link. Like I was so bad. It's really embarrassing. And like, you know, they'd be like, we need to find this tape. Is it still around?
Yeah, I was going to say, is it floating around?
I'm like, you fuckers. And I remember leaving, because I got to do about 14, 15 episodes of it live, you know, and I got good at it towards the end, or better at it anyway, towards the end. But I remember leaving the studio, and my mom was like really sweet. She would always call me afterwards. It was a big deal. I was presenting on TV, and I was like, that was great, or whatever, you know, I'll let you interview or whatever. And I was like, how did that come across, Mom? She's like, you were a bit nervous. My mother's the type that, like, you know, if you asked if you put on weight, well, she'd say, well, you haven't lost any. You know, like,
right.
she's
Yeah.
roundabout way of kind of telling you the truth, basically. So that's kind of that's the force, like, that just made, and up until very recently, it's just like you get a brain fart and you just have to keep going, because if it's live, like, it's, you know, there's no editing and stuff like that all either. And, like, I felt so bad for poor Connor Behan sitting next to me. He was just like, what is this lad on? Like, he's just rambling.
To be fair, put yourself in Connor's shoes, though, as, you know, almost kind of with a sixth sense of humor that you probably have yourself. He was probably going, yeah. Although he's probably a nice person, unlike the dark souls that myself and Jerry have here, because I would love to have been sitting with you right then going.
I mean, like, I will say this, Mike. Count your blessings, it was when it was that nobody has it taped and nobody has it, because if that was today, you'd have a dance remix version of you fucking up on YouTube before 9 o'clock at night.
Oh, 100%. That's so true.
It'd be reeling in the ears along with your man being caught putting on the makeup. Oh,
what deer in the headlights look like. I remember, like, Sinead Kennedy was like she started in Young People's as well, and Sinead is awesome. Like, she's a fucking pro. She's so good. And she kind of tried to make me feel better. And I was like, Sinead, you never had links that were that bad. But I will say one thing that did make me feel better, and to be fair, it wasn't their fault. But I think it was in a previous season now. They pointed it out. But Stephen Byrne is a presenter on 2FM, and as a presenter, was a presenter on RT2. And sometimes, like, Stephen was, like, overachieving massively. He was like 19 at the time. He'd, like, this huge following. He was presenting. He was a really good presenter. But what happens sometimes in transmission in RT when it's live, or it did happen 10, 11 years ago, but the tape will get jammed when you go to cut to something. And the tape got jammed in transmission, I think. So it's just Stephen and his contributor sitting there for 30, 40 seconds. Like, and they were, like, both quite inexperienced at the time, so not been able to go, oh, and we need to just kind of keep going here until it goes up. They both just kind of sat there, like, really awkwardly for 30 seconds while the played in the background. So that did make me, somebody else's misfortune did make me feel better for a while.
Yeah, I mean, the brief experience I have of something like that based with RT was actually just doing the warm-up for a show that I had no business being the stand-up for. Like, I would have told Jerry about it. I did the warm-up for The Cutting Edge. And it was the most grim topics they were having that night. But what was fucking me up was the timing. They'd said to me, can you do 5 minutes? I went, okay, that's a horrible, but that's fine. It's going to be a horrible gig. But 5 minutes, I have my 5 minutes worked out to make it actually palatable. And just like that, about literally a millisecond, as I'm about to walk in front of these people, this studio audience, man went, can you take it? Wrap her up around 2 minutes 45. I went, how the fuck? Who has that internal?
Yeah.
You know, and then he walks past behind me with the head mic. Like, if there ever was any hint of a fourth wall in this wide open studio, it was certainly gone with this guy. He walked past and go, Tom, just push it on to about 7 or 8 minutes. So will you? I'm like, push what on? Yeah, push what? Like, what do I push on? Like, so I have
crowd work.
Yeah, like crowd work for 100 people who absolutely did not want to see me. They wanted to see Brendan talking about horrific things. Like, one of the subjects that night was euthanasia, and it was like, well, this is great. That's what these people have come from, and I'm going to go out with my Ryanair and Dick jokes. Great, lovely.
I have so much respect genuinely for comedians. I hosted something a couple of years ago for Arnott's, and it was Joanne McNally, John Kavanagh, and Philly McMahon, which was a strange panel, but it was, like, around men's health and men's mental health and all that. And I was saying, because I've obviously trained in MMA for years and I've fought and stuff, but, like, I turned to Joanne and I said, whatever about what these two lads do or have done for a living, what you do is the scariest thing in the world for me. I have so much respect for stand-up comedians. Like, that's more terrifying to me than, like, literally getting, like, fighting somebody in a cage or performing in front of 80,000 people in sports or whatever it is.
How about telling jokes to somebody in a cage? You know, throw them off balance. Hey, fucker, take my wife.
Just that dropping punchlines.
So you have another one for us, Mike.
Yeah, this one hurts. I'm not
lovely,
gonna lie,
lovely.
Yeah,
this
we
one-
like this. I mean, the last one was just your mom's mildly disappointed in you, but this is the...
Like this whole segment was born out of five series of where, and in every single episode we had worst gig ever, and myself and Jerry just ran out of different worst gigs. Not that we ran out of worst gigs, just ones that were different. So we have the go to 30 worst gigs, and we just, more than anything, this is cathartic for us to go and find the likes of you, Mike, who can just delve into the pain. Do you want to see what I did there, Jerry? See what I did?
I see that.
So if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, so for the last year and a half, I used to do a show for entertainment.ie when I went back as editor, called The Delve, and I bought it off them. I bought it when the pandemic first hit, and we thought it was going to be like, oh, this is going to be a couple of months. I bought it back off them. It used to be an in-person show in a studio, and was video and podcast. And I thought, you know what, I can do this remotely because Bill Maher and Seth Meyers and all these guys are doing it remotely, and it looks kind of cool the way they're doing it. And I got a really talented editor to do it, and started kind of lining up episodes, managed to get a sponsor, and like got some really cool guests. I think because they were just fucking bored for the first few months of the pandemic, and you know the people that said yes, I was like, really? Great, this is going to make me look class. But for the past, say, 15, 16 years since I started in media, like the main thing I've been doing other than writing is interviewing people. So it's kind of like my bread and butter in some senses, be it at events or be it in a studio or whatever it is in front of an audience. So doing it remotely was like just a whole other, well, you lads are doing it literally now, but it's just a whole other kind of kettle of fish. Like it's a whole weird new, it's like disconnect, but you know, you're trying to warm somebody up, but you're both looking at a screen. It's fucking weird.
Yeah.
So I was very, like, I'm generally speaking, I don't get that nervous when I'm going to interview somebody. Like I'm at the point now where I've done movie junkets and shit over the years as well, which are painful, but you're sitting across from somebody really famous and you get used to it. You're just like, they're just a human. I'll ask my questions and that's that, you know? So somebody who I had a lot of respect for, and I'd been trying to get him to do the show for a few months, and he inexplicably agreed and CC'd in a bunch of people on CNN to organize it, was Jake Tapper. So Jake Tapper agreed to do the show at the end of August, I think it was, and I went out in September. And it was one of those that, like, I got into my own head about it and over-prepared. And much better, like, with instincts and reacting to things and genuinely trying to have a conversation with somebody when I do an interview. But for some fucking reason...
Had you a note, Mike, was said, admire Ty? Yeah.
Just like literal structured, like, and, you know, smile and nod. Tell him that was a great anecdote. But I got in my own head about it, and I spent the 2 hours up in this shitty little room here, over preparing for the interview. I watched the movie that a book he'd written was based on, and he was kind of half promoting that. But about halfway, I'd say, maybe 12 or 13 minutes through the interview, I'm chatting to him, and he just stops talking. So, like, if you're interviewing somebody, the worst thing you can kind of do is not listen and just ask question, right? So you want the interview to flow, you want it to be organic, you want to listen and you want to seg through certain things that they're saying. Oh, you mentioned this, and just in my experience over the years, it makes for a more natural conversation, shows you're listening, right? Not all broadcasters do that, certainly not all Irish broadcasters do that, but it's what I try to do. So I asked him about something, and he chatted, and then he stopped, and I had the biggest fucking brain fart in of my career. It was worse than the RT one, and that, like, I was like, I just couldn't think, and my brain didn't work. So Jake Tapper sitting in his office with his coffee, like sipping his coffee, waiting on me to finally fucking say something, you know. And my poor girlfriend, who was operating the camera in the room, was like, oh shit. She was like watching it happen in slow motion. And I mean, in my head, it was 5 minutes of silence. I think it was more like, you know, maybe 8-9 seconds, and I then kind of stumbled into a question. I was like, I'm so sorry. I was like, I'm a big fan, Jake. I'm a big fan, and I'm not and yeah, and I just, you know, I was like, I've never done that with anybody in 15 years doing this. For some reason, I shit the bed in front of one of the most well-known broadcasters in the world. And like, oh, and that is the one, I think, and he was so lovely and he was great about it. And we edited it the fuck out.
Yeah, yeah, you did.
Well, do you know what? I kind of talked about it, and my editor was like, she's like, there was no point. Like, I valued her feedback. She's like, there's no fucking point. And she's like, first of all, it's not as bad as you think it is. And I was like, fucking burn that footage. I don't want it on an SD card. I don't want it in the ether. I want it gone from everywhere. But it was one of those that, like, when you have so much respect for somebody and you really want to impress them, you know, and Jake Tapper's at this level where I was like, you know, not even aspirationally could look towards. And I was like, I just fucked that. Just fucked that up. If you went okay in the end, but that is the one that I did not want to go badly. That just
always the ones.
It's always those, and it's one of those that, like I was saying earlier, that when you're lying in bed at night, that is the one that gives me the shiver up the spine. I'm like, oh fuck.
But you've interviewed everybody. How did you shit the bed on that one? Like, literally everybody.
Yeah, I over prepared for it. That's all I want. Like, and like I think the one thing I'd be more self-critical than anybody could be. But if you read some of the YouTube comments under my interviews, they're fucking hilarious. Like, I interviewed Jordan Peterson a few years ago, and he's kind of like a thunderbolt for these fuckers anyway, you know.
He's a bit divisive, all right.
And I got to talk about Donald Trump, so you can imagine, you know. And the comments underneath it are the funniest. There's about 50 or 60,000 comments underneath one clip on YouTube. The clip's got about 6 million views, and it's all these like Donald Trump supporters. Like, one guy said, I look like a really tall midget. Everybody was commenting on the size of my head. The angle we did it in the studio, and then they were all like I'm not joking, there's literally about 4,000 or 5,000 comments insulting the size of my head. I mean, like, that is the weirdest shaped fucking head I have ever seen.
For all the for the listeners of the Tom and Jerry show, that clip will be posted on our social media pages now very shortly.
It's so, like, I'm well used to it. I don't want the criticism at all, and it's like, it's always you. I find, I don't know what you guys are like after you've done a show or you've done a set or something where you're like, I could have done that, I should have done that.
It's so much easier and to blame the room. But what we normally found with what the true common thread through why we ended up having such dire gigs, like as Jerry says, like, people not laughing is not a dire gig, but actually, like, you go to do a gig and all of a sudden it turns out that it was a funeral, literally a funeral, or, you know, an anniversary for somebody. You've no business. It's normally where comedy has no business. You know, that's normally where, and nobody wants you there. But also then there are the moments where you fuck it up yourself. You take that fucker into the mountain yourself, like.
You said yourself there, Mike. You over prepared and you overthought it. I mean, you look like you spend time in the gym. I'm pretty sure every now and then you say, you know what, I'm going to really work out hard today. I'm going to take a load of that pre-workout supplement, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to have a fucking fantastic workout. And then the pre-workout supplement was like, no, you're going to have diarrhea, pal. You're going to have diarrhea right now, right this second. And you're like, God damn it, why didn't I just?
You're doing a different kind of workout. Yeah. It is. It's like, it's so weird. The people that have kind of thrown me and the people that haven't thrown me over the years, and most of the time you can keep going and you just, like, you know, you can cover it up, or especially in the junket setup, which are like, they're like 6 minutes long, and I think they're done it now pretty much, but it's a conveyor belt of journalists going in and talking to whoever, and there's nothing about it that's in any way glamorous at all. You're literally like pond scum. You're going over to London in like carriages, and it's GMTV and fucking This Morning and MTV and some shitheads from Ireland. You know, so you're like, just get in, ask your questions, and get the fuck out.
Just a never-ending procession of sales reps.
Pretty much, you know. So you get in there and you're like, oh, this is somebody I've watched my entire life as a movie star that just looks exasperated that he has to look at me for 6 minutes. Let's just get through this together. You know, you have something to sell here. I need to justify a red eye.
At those junkets, I always imagine if I ever had to be a journalist at one, I would do the Hugh Grant from Notting Hill and just bring a copy of fucking Country Living with me and go, yeah, let's talk tractors. Let's talk
honestly,
tractors.
That's the fucking arrogance of a stand-up comedian, Mike. Like, I picture myself interviewing someone at a junket, Russell Crowe, someone notoriously difficult, and having a great time. I'd nail it. I just have it in my head, like, me and Russell would get on like that, and you know, in the actual reality, I'd ask him some question and he'd snap and fuck a phone at me.
Yeah, you know, I interviewed him around the time he did that. I think was it when he threw the phone at somebody? No, it was after, but it was for the film Robin Hood, and he was like fucking 2 hours late, and it was one of those. He does that thing where he like tests people, you know. And if and I remember at the time thinking, God, this was a disaster, but it was actually fine. Where you ask him a question, he just gives you a one-word answer. And he's like, let's see how this fucker reacts. You can see him in his head, you know. He's an imposing man.
Let's test this guy. God, this is turning into the fucking Tom and Jerry and Russell Crowe podcast. Is what it is, Tom. And last guy, we had Russell Crowe stories last time as well.
Oh, with Jim Sheridan,
or a couple of weeks back, as the case may be. But regardless of which, Mike, holy shit, a pair of stinkers, pal.
The thing that gives me most pleasure, and this is what's probably warped, is that they still live with Mike to this day when he closes his eyes at night. It'd be no good to just go, here, it doesn't really bother me. It still bothers Mike, and for some reason I enjoyed them knowing that. I'm a sick bastard, Mike. I'm sorry.
I'm just hoping these fuckers don't come in trees, lads. I'm just so I can take. You know?
I was just gonna say, Mike, what you really need, if these things are keeping you awake at night, what you really need is like 10 more.
Yeah, that's
and then they just blend one into the other, and it's.
We developed a phrase called cauliflower brain, Mike, where you just like your ear, you just don't feel it anymore. Now, in saying that, the good times aren't so good anymore either. You're just dead inside, essentially, is what it is. At least there's some spark still in you.
Yeah, it's just strange, like doing these things remotely now, and it's strange that it's almost become normal as well.
I hate that it's become normal. I don't want it to become normal. That's why stand up just couldn't work on it. But I mean, for the most part, unless you are good friends with somebody, trying to build rapport with a person that's 3,000 miles away, you've never met, and who you've idolized, and then you end up pulling your pants down, virtually or metaphorically in front of them, going, "I'm sorry, did I just freeze for 10 minutes there in front of you?" You know.
Yeah, it is, and it fucking felt like 10 minutes in my head with Happer anyway. Like, but it's one of those that like you get your brain from being like a contributor, because it's so funny when like a comedian goes on a talk show or something like that. There's one expectation of you, and that expectation is to be funny, which is its own pressure in itself. But if going on a radio show or any other show as a contributor, you're there to basically give information. But to go on as a presenter and a host, which what it was on YouTube, and I've gone from one to the other, it's like I need to move this along and just remember shit. And even at that point, I wasn't even doing MMA at that point. I can't blame CTE. I've been hitting the head, which I tend to blame now. I'm like, I've been smacked in the head too much. Sorry about that. I just have a crap memory, and just it's one of those. It will stay with me till the day I die, I'd say.
Lovely.
Well, on that note, Mike Sheridan, thank you very much for giving your time to the Tom and Jerry show.
No worries, lads.
Cheers, Mike. 2 for the price of 1, Jer.
I love every bit of it. Oh God,
makes me feel good.
Well, it makes me kind of miss gigging, I suppose, a little. But then again, maybe not really, Tom. Just to say, me going back to comedy is a much longer conversation that won't be had here, Tom. But for now, I'm loving the podcasts. I love these interactions with fine people like Mike. And we're kicking out good content for our wonderful listeners. And do you know what not one of these listeners has done so far yet, Tom? Fucking heckle me. So I'm thinking this is the way to go.
It's not bad. We just pre-package it, send it out to people, and we're the Amazon right now of podcasts and gigging. Just package it, send it out to people. And look, you can send it back, you'll get... Oh, wait, no! There's no money exchanging hands, so you're getting this absolute juiciness for nothing. Thanks again to Mike Sheridan. Of course, people were going, what's that? Trust me. While there was nobody screaming at him the level of stress you'll be feeling in a live TV performance. Oh my sweet suffering Jesus. That's veins coming out of your fucking side of your face, people. Trust me.
That's a stress headache I can fucking do without. But hey, you know what? Thank you very much, Mike, for coming along. And thank you everybody for listening and tuning in. Hey, listen, do us another wee favour while you're in a favour doing mood. Subscribe to the Tom and Jerry podcast. Tell them how to do it, Tom.
Just look at whatever app you're listening to right now. If you're going a fair weather fan, you're listening to YouTube, go click it there. But in reality, you're probably best with an app of some sort. It's very handy to do. Have a gander. There's a rake more episodes. There's 5 other seasons before this. There's a load more if you want to get your bearings of who you're talking about. Go back and have a gander. We've already started season 6 with our first couple episodes. People are really liking it. It's a change of tack from us, but you know what? It's been really fucking enjoyable so far, and we've got a bunch more stuff to come. Sure. Only a handful of other things we need him to do, if you wouldn't mind telling them, please. Yeah,
absolutely. We want you to keep in touch with everything on our social media channels at Tom and Jerry Show. Jerry with a G, Tom with a T, or some variation thereupon should get us. You'll know us by that fantastic artwork by Rob Steers. Look him up as well, Rob Stears. He's a good guy as well. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Don't follow us on Facebook, we're not there. You can follow Tom by his own account there on @Tom_O'Mahony, or myself at Jerry McBride on Twitter or on Instagram. Again, it'll get you there somewhere near us. And not only will you have all the daily guff and bullshit from myself and Tom, you'll also get sneak peeks as to what the subject of Monday's main episode will be.
Now, that being said, once you've done all them things, if you have the ability on whatever app you're listening to, whether it's Apple Podcasts or I think Stitcher is about the only two you can do it on, give us a review. Some lovely reviews coming in. I tell you what, 5 stars and a nice couple of words helps everybody else find it. We're rocking purely 5 stars on the Irish Apple one. Purely 5 stars across the board. People have been legendary. Keep up the good work. And sure, I suppose we saddle up, throw our legs backs. I suppose we can lie on the horse backwards if you want, on your back. And we, I'm not one for the equestrian world. That's all you need to know about that. We'll be back again on Monday with another juicy full episode for you. Till then, Ger.
Take care, everybody.
Good luck and thanks.